Welcome to K. Keith Photographer's Digital Images Techniques and Tips for the Novice Photographer. And now, coming at you almost live from Kansas City, USA, here's your host, Ken Keith.
Hi, and welcome to Digital Images Techniques and Tips for the Novice Photographer. Now, we're in the middle of the third season for us here, and we've widened the scope quite a bit in this new series. Now, for those of you who are in the local Photoshop Elements user group, don't worry, we're still going to be covering Photoshop Elements in depth, as well as other imaging software, some product reviews, and of course tips on photography to help you out there. So we want to welcome you. If you're new to us, why, we appreciate you dropping by, whether you're watching this on Vimeo or YouTube. So the first thing we're going to do, we're here in the studio for a bit before we get to the computer, and we're going to talk about today high dynamic range photography. And I'm going to give you a number of resources at the end of this video so that you can do some more study on your own if you haven't been involved or you haven't kept up. What basically high dynamic range is photography. What we're trying to do is to more closely approximate what we see with our eye as opposed to what a digital camera sees, or film camera for that matter. Now, people have been wrestling with this, I guess, for as long as there has been photography. If you're a devotee of black and white, and some of the old masters like Brett and Edward Weston and Ansel Adams, and you know, he was dealing with that too. He had a little thing that you may be familiar with, it's called the zone system. And let's talk about what the dynamic range of an image, you know, it's just basically what it is from the lightest portion of it to the darkest portion. It's the luminance values. And I have here to help me, I have my magic ruler. Now, what's magic about this ruler is that the demarcations, it's not in inches, or we're going to pretend that anyway, but it's in EV, or exposure values, or what we would commonly call f-stops. So this is a 12-inch magic ruler, and if I were to measure this on a bright sunny day, or a bright sunny day with this ruler, a bright sunny day would be just a hair longer, maybe about the equivalent of 14 f-stops. Okay, well, that's great, but a camera in a single exposure, once again depending on the camera and some other physical factors, is only going to capture somewhere around maybe 9.5 to maybe just cover this entire ruler. But if it exceeds, obviously, what it can capture with one exposure, you're going to have shadows on the one end that are featureless, and you're going to have blown out highlights on the other, or sometimes, you know, we call those clipped highlights or clipped shadows. Well, what about our computer monitors? Well, just about 8 EV is all it's going to see, unless you get into some really high dollar ones. But, you know, the best dynamic range capturing device is actually our eyes. Now, you see a number of different data bandied about what our eyes can see, and there's sort of some general consensus on that, but the way we see makes it a little more difficult to measure. Now, unlike the camera, we don't just look and see an image and, you know, looking and make one exposure, if you will. Instead, our eyes are moving, we're squinting, we're shading our eyes, our pupils are opening and closing. And as we look around in a scene, if I had to measure with the magic ruler, instead of 12 EVs, it's going to be at least 20 EVs and maybe as much as 24 EVs. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take 3 or more bracketed exposures of a particular scene. Most of the time it's, your average. You want to measure carefully, and or you're going to be in something like an evaluative, like matrix metering, and it's going to take one exposure at that setting, and then it's going to take more exposures, 1 stop, 2 stops, 3 stops, maybe over, 1, 2, 3 stops under. And then those are going to be merged in a special program for HDR, and then combined, and then you're going to read about a term called tone mapping, and that's just kind of a highfalutin term for saying that it's going to convert that information into something that we can see, it'll be readily available for us to see on our monitors and as a printout. So there's been a little bit of controversy. There's always those, the naysayers, who are probably tired of some of the effects that people are doing with high dynamic range images. Now you'll often see this, and you see it both in print media and in film too. It's pretty popular in a lot of advertising circles to go toward the surrealistic fantasy type of rendering of the scene, and that's fine, and I like to do some of that too. But you can also process your files in the software so that you get photorealistic images and you have a greater range. And I'm going to demonstrate and give you some examples of those from some of my own works, and you can also see these on hdrspotting.com and on my photo blog, kkeithphoto.wordpress.com. So I'm going to quit yakking now, at least here on camera, and we're going to get over to the computer and take a little closer look at this. And one of the big things is, as the images come out of your software, your HDR software that is, it's really not a finished product. I mean, it technically could be, of course, but the big secret, if there is any secret at all, is that you need to take that image and do other modifications in order to finalize it. And one of those is noise reduction, and also how you want to tweak it some more. And you may have some artifacts from the HDR software that you need to fix in Elements or Photoshop and Lightroom, whatever you're using. So I'm going to go over all that for you today, and in the future I'll try to put in the title of the different videos that it is something for Photoshop or general photography, so that you can identify it, and if it's a subject that you're not interested in, you can either go on and wait for the other one. But the big component of everything that we're doing here is for the audience. It's not really helping me at all, other than I'm glad to be out there and talking to folks. So, and that's how this program has evolved, with input and suggestions from other people that they wanted a little broader scope than just Photoshop elements. But my contact information is all over the place. Please drop me a line on my email, bigcat2@gmail.com, with your comments and suggestions and some things that you'd like to see. And if you're not seeing and getting the information that you want, well, it's really up to you to let me know. So we're going to go to the computer now, and I'll talk to you in just a bit. Thanks. Alright, well, first of all, let's take a look at some samples. Now, as I mentioned, when you
are shooting these things, you're getting your images in a bracket of exposures, and this is really important, and so there are some rules, I guess you would say, that you need to follow. Now, if you're going to do this thing right and shoot in HDR, or even experiment with it fairly seriously, you're going to need three basic things. First of all, if you don't have a tripod, you just might as well suck it up and get a good sturdy tripod and ball head or three-way pan head or one of the grip heads. It's very important that your camera remains stable and as vibration free as possible when you're doing these captures. Now, can you shoot these handheld? Yes, you can, but if you're looking for a really good quality, you're going to have to know what you're doing and be extremely careful and steady when shooting handheld. The best method is still going to be the tripod. Okay. The next thing that you're going to have obviously is the software. And today we're going to talk about Unified Colors HDR Express. It's $99. There's others out there, and we may talk about those as we go along. It is one that will get you started fast, and hence the name Express. I like it a lot. Not perfect. None of them are, as a matter of fact. But this one is one that you can get up and running with very quickly. And the third thing that you're going to need, I think, if you're looking for good quality images, whether it's just for yourself or to display or to sell, is a noise elimination program. There's a number of them out there, and I've talked about one of them. It's called Noiseware by Imaginomics. Very inexpensive, highly recommended, excellent quality. If you have Lightroom 3, then you can definitely go into the Camera Raw and the noise reduction there. Once again, very, very good. I use it quite a bit also instead of the standalone, which I have of Noiseware that I bought several years ago. Noise Ninja is another popular one, and you can certainly use it. There's some other options, but that's item number 3 on the list of what to get. Now, before we go into the software, let's take a look at some examples here real quick. Here are my 3 bracketed exposures, and if you look, this one is going to they have a series here of basically, this is normal. This is if you took a single frame and that was the end of it. This is what you would wind up with. Evaluative metering, the matrix metering on the Nikon that I was shooting, says that this is the right exposure, and it truly is. This one is 2 stops overexposed, and this one is 2 stops underexposed. Now, what I'm getting here, I'm getting some additional detail down in the lighter areas, and on the bridge, and clouds and all, and on the overexposed, I'm seeing detail underneath the bridge. And I've tweaked this, and I've kept it just slightly surrealistic, but not really wacky, as you may have seen in some other publications or some other examples. The beauty of this is that I'm seeing a very wide range now. If you compare and contrast this with the quote-unquote normal, you can see into the shadow area quite well. You can see all the detail under the bridge, detail on these hard demarcation areas. You can see that your sun angle is coming this way. The water movement is really pretty. Lots of detail. If you look at this, you'll notice that this particular bridge is clad in metal, and you have all these rivets, and the detail down here in the railroad tracks, the lines, the detail in the bridge here is phenomenal, and certainly quite a bit more than you would be able to see with a single exposure. So, like I say, this one is modified slightly. It's a little more than photorealistic, but you can definitely make some of them photorealistic. This one right here is in studio shot. It was also an HDR. It's quite realistic. I liked that one a lot. And then this particular one, it's got a lot of detail, enhanced color. I have all these bricks, and the detail here in these tanks and all is great. It really pops the original scene out, and yet it doesn't look surrealistic. This one is an HDR. You can see into part of the shadows here. This temple here had quite a bit of afternoon glare and light on it, and we've captured that, and it still looks like a regular photograph. And one more. This one was taken inside an arboretum. Pretty high contrast. You had ambient light from the skylights coming in here, and you had some pretty deep shadows down in here. I've made this fairly contrasty and all, but it is certainly not a surrealistic fantasy type of image to it. I have a couple of photographs here of the same subject. This is a power plant. Just once again, a little tad. I have just a little bit of a glow here, and lots of detail. And I process that differently than I did in earlier work of that. And this is it right here. The lighting conditions were different, but you can see that I've changed it. It looks sort of like a old hand-tinted postcard, for example. So, like I say, you can do a lot of things with it. Here's another one that's more photorealistic, but has lots of detail. You can see from the shadow where the sun was, and so you have a lot of high contrast, but you can also see in here to the shadows, and you can see detail out here in the snow cover, and you wouldn't have been able to capture this in one single exposure on your digital camera. So there's some things for you. It's a courthouse, a little bit slightly surrealistic there, and this abandoned factory, just a little bit surrealistic there, but also it's got a lot of eye appeal to it, and that's another thing that is great about HDR. Now, I think that you still have to have a subject that's interesting, well composed, get your exposures dead on, and do post-processing correctly to get a quality image. This is one that it was a very windy day. It does show some what they call ghosting from the very small branches that were moving during exposure. That's one thing that HDR is not good for, although there are some fixes for that, and that is having a lot of movement of people, things blowing around in the image. Now they have a feature that's called deghosting that will help with that, but it is not perfect. And also another reason to have a good solid tripod is so that you don't introduce any movement into the camera while the exposures are being made. So let's take a look now at the HDR Express interface, and it's really pretty simple. If you've got some previously opened image, you have some recent files here, and basically to get started you're going to just click on create a new document, a new merge to an HDR image. Generally you're going to have aligned sources, and this is you have 3 selections on how to do the deghosting, and it gives you some examples on which one to check depending on what's going on. You know, if you have cars or people moving in it, you're going to select this one. Most of the time, especially if it's a landscape, you're going to want to select the top one. And you get your file just by clicking here. This is one way, and you're going to get this pop-up, and actually we can go down and select the ones. These are raw files out of a Nikon. This is the bridge, so we're going to click and shift and open, and there they are right there. And then we're going to go ahead and ask the program to go ahead and merge those 3. I'm going to pause this recording while the images load up and merge. There's no use you boring you with that. Okay, so we're back now in to HDR Express. We're not going to go into a whole lot here so that this video doesn't run too long. I would encourage you to go to the manufacturer site that is called Unified Color, and they have 3 HDR products. This one, and once again, is HDR Express. So one of the things that you can have it done, and while we were paused or off air here waiting for things to load up, it ran an animation, and if you want to see that again, you click right here on this, and it's going to run through the entire range of tonal values. Now this one is not great, and as a matter of fact it tells you it's just under 9 EV. And then above that you have a histogram with shadow and highlight clipping warnings here. You see here that we've captured almost all the things, information that we can do, and this is a big 32-bit file. Now on your highlight side and over here on the shadows, just a little bit of it's clipped, and if we wanted to capture a little more of that, we can shift our brightness, and that's taken care of everything as far as all the information in the shadow area, and we're just getting right up and just almost ready to clip those highlights there. Alright, now you're going to select one of these presets for tone mapping. In other words, it's going to do a conversion of this information that it has here and convert that so that it can be displayed on our monitors and all. And you have some choices here, and I haven't noticed a great deal of difference where you start. This is the default. It's the mid-tone priority, so let's just go ahead and use it. Now if you want to, like your top 3 bars here will make changes to this depending on how you slide them. These bars down here do not affect this tone mapping preview. It's for the style previews that come up next. So you can go ahead and make these changes like I did. I just changed the brightness slider slightly to pick up a little more or a little less of the shadow detail, and I'm watching my highlights and making sure that they don't get clipped. Now you see I've made this adjustment. We've got all the shadow information, but we've clipped a little bit of the highlights. I'm just going to pull that back slightly. I want to get all my highlights and got that there, and just about all my shadows. And now we want to select styles, and these are presets, and from here to here would be realistic renditions of your image. This is called optimal and vivid, and you see we're starting to block up some things here. Then you have a black and white conversion and what's called grunge, and this is where you're starting to see things a little more the surrealistic side. You have some odd things here like a vintage color film and a dreamy one that basically just takes all the detail out. You might use, but to me it sort of defeats the purpose of having HDR. So there's a soft and cold version, a grunge version, and as you can tell, this is getting close to what I showed you earlier, the way I actually finished up this. You have an artistic one, which is kind of a strange desaturated thing. I've used it a couple of times. One's called Blogger's Delight, which is really really starting to get into that more fantasy surrealistic. And you also pick up some artifacts like these glows all around here. And then you have one called Retina Burn, and you know, not really certain what you'd use that for. But once you make a selection, you get in close. If it's what you're looking for is like this, it's great. And then now you can use all of these sliders. There's these 5 down here and 3 here, and they all will work. And what I did in my final images, I just basically started by bringing the brightness up a little bit, or I can, as you move your black points up, you get a little more contrasty. I back that down somewhat, and I played around also with the white balance and all, and certainly you've got quite a bit of information in this photo, and quite a number of adjustments that you can do, and to produce the kind of image that you're looking for. And then the next thing would be is the finished product. So all we have to do now is just come out of it and say save, and then save it to wherever you like. Make your name. It will change it. You'll have now, and instead of a raw file, you'll have a 16-bit TIFF file. So these are going to be pretty good size. I'm just going to call this a this is kind of a redo on the bridge. I'm going to save that there into the 4HDR file. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is import that product, that image. You can see here now it's a TIFF file. You see it's getting pretty large. It's almost 70 megs. I'm going to open that back into Photoshop Elements, and from this point then we're going to start with our finishing product. Get that out of there. So here it is, and you would just treat this as you normally would any of your images. I've got some sort of a little artifact that's probably kind of tough for you to see on your screen with this video compression. I've got a place here and here. There are probably dust spots on the sensor, or maybe occasionally you'll get some artifacts from the HDR software. So I'm just going to use my clone stamp tool or my spot healing brush. I'm going to make any adjustments that I'd like to do in here as far as any corrections that need to be done. If I've decided my color balance needs to be different or whatever, I might do some additional sharpening or whatever. But at this point also, you're going to want to do something as far as noise elimination. Now, as you may know, here in Elements there is, as part of the filters, a noise reduction filter. There, filter, noise, and reduce noise. Now, one thing real quick here, you'll notice that you don't have as many selections as normal, and that's because you're working on a 16-bit image, and Elements doesn't like that very much. So if you want to have full use of all your tools, we're going to go to Image and Mode and 8 bits per channel, and now you'll have all your tools. So let's go back then to Filter and Noise and Reduce Noise. And everybody's take, including mine, is that they need to upgrade this. It sucks, and so good luck if this is all you're going to be able to do, is use the noise reduction within Photoshop Elements. You can see this grainy, this is the luminance noise. I don't see really any speckles as far as color noise. So it's not bad. If you printed this, you would not see any of this until you got up maybe to something really big. But our whole purpose is to produce a quality image, and in order to do that, then I'm going to have to send this image to Noiseware or to my Lightroom and reduce that. And once that's done, then I'm going to bring it back into Elements, and we're going to do whatever we would like to do as far as fixing it for display on the web, or for printing. And I've already done that. This is kind of a standard thing that I do, that I put on the photo blog. And remember, you can catch me there at kkeithphoto.wordpress.com. You'll see this image, and you'll notice that what I've done is, as I've used a background, I've created a larger document and added a canvas background to that, added my signature block, and it is ready for presentation. So if you'd like to delve further into HDR photography, if you'd like to drop me a line on bigcat2@email.com, I'd be glad to continue if there's enough interest in this. But it's something that I wanted you to be aware of. And as I said earlier, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you some references for further study. So have a great week out there. Take care, and we'll talk again.